What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. And what's going on with Saquon Barkley? He's been franchise tagged. There seems to be no offer on the table for a long-term contract extension. Brian Dable said he's unsure whether or not Saquon Barkley will be at offseason programming. What's going on? I don't know, but we're going to go ahead and discuss all the news surrounding Saquon Barkley, talk about what the deal is with this potential contract extension that he may or may not get from the New York Giants. It's going to be really interesting. Of course, we're heading towards the 2023 NFL Draft, so hopefully these conversations start to heat up soon and we get some clarity on Saquon Barkley's future. John Mara even left some comments out there on the table at the NFL annual meeting today, talking about how he wants to see Saquon Barkley be a Giant for life, but also talking about how the offer that was on the table no longer is on the table. So what's going on with Saquon Barkley? Will he be a New York Giant 2023, and will he be a New York Giant past 2023? Let's go ahead, discuss it, Alex, but before we do, make sure to leave a like if you do enjoy this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today? And what are your thoughts on this bizarre Saquon Barkley contract situation?
Hey man, I'm doing great. I hope you're doing well yourself. And this Saquon Barkley situation has unfolded pretty well for what the Giants were trying to do, and what they were trying to do is not overspend on the running back position. And, you know, history would suggest that when you spend big contracts, you know, offload big money, when it comes to running backs, it normally bites you in the butt. Look what the Cowboys had to do with Ezekiel Elliott. Now he's a free agent, and they had to eat a ton of money. Very, very rarely do these big contracts pan out. You obviously, the Carolina Panthers end up trading Christian McCaffrey, and these running backs are just all over the place. And, you know, Saquon Barkley wanted a deal in the $14 million plus per season range, and the Giants and Joe Schoen said, no, we're going to draw a line in the sand. We're going to stand by our guns, stand by history, stand by the logical strategic decision, and, you know, wait for the market to develop and see what happens. And the Giants, for once, in what feels like a very long time, are making really good decisions, because we know Dave Gettleman would have signed him to a monster deal, disregarded the entire strategy, disregarded the fact that running backs investing in that position is a bad idea financially, and he would have given his guy, his gold jacket player, a $14-15 million season salary, and we would have been sitting here like, all right, like, we got Saquon back, we're happy about it, but we overpaid tremendously. We know that's what would have happened, guys. I think we can pretty much sum that up. But Joe Schoen said, you know what, we're going to take a little bit more of a modern approach here. We're going to make the right decisions. We're going to make sure that we are salary cap healthy moving forward, and make sure that we don't bite ourselves in the foot, bite ourselves in the butt, shoot ourselves in the foot. This is a situation where the Giants offered him like $12 million per season. He rejected, and it's kind of looking like he made a bad decision now, because Miles Sanders, and there's no way in hell that anyone on earth is going to argue that Miles Sanders is twice as bad or Saquon Barkley is twice as good as Miles Sanders, and that's the thing, right? If he took the Giants offer at $12 million per season, right, that would indicate that he's twice as good as Miles Sanders. Saquon Barkley is a very good player. He is objectively better than Miles Sanders. That's not the question. But he's also intangibly valuable to this team. You cannot put a number on the clubhouse, the locker room value he brings as a leader, as a captain on this team. So with that being said, I think that it's hard to kind of put a monetary value on him, especially because of the market right now. But objectively speaking, there's no way you can justify that he's is worth twice as much as Miles Sanders. I think that's kind of an easy conclusion that we can make. So $12 million was still a really good, healthy contract for him. And the fact that the market was completely destroyed in terms of running backs, no one paid up for running backs, no one gave up big contracts to them, and the market still seems very thin at that position. The Giants are happy paying him $10.1 million on the franchise tag, and if he holds out and demands a new deal, the Giants are going to be like, all right, man, like, hold out. What are you going to do? Go to another team that's not going to pay you? No one is paying running backs anymore. It's becoming very evident and very obvious that the Giants and other teams are not really taking that kind of avenue and overpaying and locking in guarantees to a position that really is not guaranteed at all. And in the best case scenario, in my opinion, I love Saquon Barkley, right? I love the fact that he's still on this team. I think he's going to play on the tag because he knows he's not going to get any more money than $12 million the Giants already offered him. If he was smart, I think he would actually, extend right now and take that money if the Giants did have it on the table. But Joe Schoen said yesterday it's not on the table anymore. They don't have an actual offer on the table for Saquon Barkley anymore, despite the fact that John Maris said that they would love Barkley to be a Giant for the rest of his career. Kind of put Shane in a weird spot, but I think Shane doesn't really care. He's going to follow his strategy, follow his kind of repertoire of moves. But when you're looking at this salary situation, Anthony, and looking at how the running back market has dried up, no one's spending at the position, I think they did brilliantly. They stood by their guns. They waited. They remained patient. They locked him in at a really good contract price point, $10.1 million in the franchise tag. They guarantee his services for next season, and they make sure that they protect themselves in the same kind of breath. They don't put themselves in a bad salary situation with more important contracts coming up. Andrew Thomas at left tackle, Dexter Lawrence in the interior defensive line, Xavier McKinney at free safety. A lot more positions that have a lot more substantial value. And a lot more importance. I think the best case scenario is the Giants draft a mid-round running back, and they have a nice complement to Saquon Barkley because we know he can't be a workhorse guy that takes on 25-plus carries per game. He gets injured. That's not just him for what it's worth. A lot of running backs have that same reality. They can't handle 25, 30 touches per game. You cannot run an offense through a running back anymore. Even Derrick Henry, the foot injury, missed substantial time. Christian McCaffrey misses substantial time. Every running back gets hurt when they actually put the load of the weight on their shoulders, and now you have to try to find ways to complement them, like supplement that fatigue. And the Giants are probably going to end up doing that, and they're going to end up utilizing this 1-2 punch where Saquon's like the primary punch, but they have a guy who can change the pace and really help be productive on the back end. It could be Gary Brightwell, could be Matt Breida. They could draft somebody, who knows? But in the reality of the situation, they made a really good move and they stood by their guns, and I'm really happy they did.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, listen, Saquon Barkley's probably regretting his decision right now. That $12.5 million per season offer that he received near the bye week, he should have taken that. In retrospect, it sounds like that was a long-term offer. He could have made an average of 12.5 over the course of the next 3 seasons at least. He should have taken that deal, but he didn't, and the New York Giants are way better off because of that. Now, let's say that this offseason, Miles Sanders got a big deal. All of these running backs signed big-time contracts. Well, then Saquon Barkley would have been right, and he would have gotten more money, but that didn't happen. The running back market fell apart this offseason, never came to fruition. None of these players got paid the way that they were supposed to, and so Saquon Barkley, sitting here with no offer on the table from the New York Giants, is stuck and now forced to either play on the franchise tag or accept a pay cut from the franchise tag, which is why he's going to have to play on the franchise tag, because right now the market value for Saquon Barkley is likely less than the amount of the franchise tag. I don't even know if he gets over $10 million on average annually from any team in the NFL right now. So that $10.1 million that he's going to make fully guaranteed on the franchise tag, it's actually a good deal for Saquon. He's actually, you could argue, being overpaid by that. But here's the other part of it. Now, if you're Saquon Barkley, why would you even take a long-term extension if you know that the average annual value of each year on that deal is going to be less? Because let's say he plays this entire year out on the franchise tag. Well, franchise tags are fully guaranteed, $10.1 million right into his pocket. And then if he gets franchise tagged again next offseason, that's $12 million because it rises at least 5%. So that means he can make $22 million guaranteed over the next 2 years by playing on just the franchise tag. And there's no way that he's going to get $22 million guaranteed over the next 2 years unless he plays on the franchise tag. So Saquon Barkley, he has to play on the franchise tag now, essentially. Like, he doesn't really have a choice. He can't sit out this year because then he's not going to get tagged next year. He's not going to make any money after that if he doesn't play this year. So the Giants, you're right, Alex, they did the exact right thing. They stood really strong. They stood firm in their stance against Saquon Barkley and his contractual demands, and it's paying off for them. Again, they did risk a little bit because if everyone went into the offseason and started paying running backs, well, then they would have had to pay up for Saquon as well, but that didn't happen. The running back market never came to fruition, and now Saquon Barkley is likely sitting here wishing that he took that deal that the Giants offered him near the bye week. So when you're looking at Saquon Barkley, his future of this team, it's a little murky. I don't really know if there is a long-term future here anymore, although I know that John Mara said he wants there to be. John Mara said that he wants Saquon Barkley to be a New York Giant for life, but I don't know if it's actually realistic anymore because of the running back market. These best running backs in the NFL that get paid like the best running backs in the NFL, their contracts never pan out. You mentioned Ezekiel Elliott. Josh Jacobs is another example. Dalvin Cook is another example. He didn't even get the same amount of money that a guy like Derrick Henry got, and Derrick Henry is on the trading block. So think about that. Derrick Henry is like a perennial All-Pro. He carried the Titans deep into the postseason one year, got a big contract because of that, and from that point on, he hasn't really been able to replicate that because, like you said, Alex, the running back position has a lot of wear and tear. They don't last long enough to really make the most of those contracts. So when you're looking at Saquon Barkley, his future with the New York Giants, Alex, how long of a future do you think he has with this team? Is it another year? Is it another 2? Can he be a Giant for life? Or, ultimately, is the running back market going to push him out of the Big Apple?
Look, I mean, that's a really loaded question, right? Like, I think all of us can say that we would love to find a way to keep Saquon, right? Saquon, when healthy, and of course, that's a big asterisk next to the when healthy part, is one of the best running backs in football, right? He's a game changer. He was our offense. He is capable of taking a football to the house in the blink of an eye. He can be a very effective receiver out of the backfield too, and he's gotten a lot better, by the way, last year as a pass blocker. So that really was something that stood out to me. The coaching staff helped everybody, including Saquon. And he played a full healthy season for the most part. You know, he did have the shoulder injury, had a little bit of a neck injury, he played through it. But now you're going to see the offense take a little bit more weight off of his shoulders. You know, you're spreading the football out. You got more receivers to work with. Maybe they draft one at 25. You got Darren Waller at tight end, Bellinger going into his second season, Daniel Jones, you know, his ability to run the football. So a lot less attention's going to go on Saquon, and that pressure alleviation should make him more valuable. But again, it's just the market, man. Like, I don't think that the market is going to get any better for running backs, and that's just the truth, unfortunately. So with that being said, if Saquon wants to cash and wants to get an extension, he should have taken the one the Giants gave him before. I think he made a mistake not taking it. But I don't think he's going to get a better deal unless he has a ridiculous season, unless he just goes crazy and another team is willing to pay for it. But if he goes off and has a 2,000-yard all-purpose season and he scores 15 touchdowns, I think the Giants let him walk. You know what I mean? I think the Giants are like, we don't want to buy high. We don't want to buy at the height of his value, because running backs, once they start hitting that certain age, the decline is steep and it's fast, you know, so you really don't want to buy high on running backs because it always ends up biting you in the butt. It's always a huge risk. 99% of the time you're getting screwed. So with that being said, the franchise tag is a great solution for the Giants. It is exactly what we hoped they would do with Saquon. Locked him in at $10.1 million, and you know, Brian Dable answered a question yesterday. Do you think that Saquon's going to be showing up to practice on the tag? And he said that's a question for him. So you know, he's a leader on this team. The Giants aren't budging. They're like, we'll gladly keep you on the tag. They don't care, and I think they showed some loyalty to specific players. Obviously, Daniel Jones. Obviously, they brought back some other guys. They're going to show loyalty to Dexter. They're going to show it to Andrew Thomas, who's going to get a monster deal. And you know, Saquon, while I would have loved to show loyalty to him, and they tried, he ultimately declined their best offer. And I think the Giants are smart in the sense that it's a business, right? Everyone knows this. It's a business. Loyalty is important, and you have to make sure that you pay the guys that, you know, really bring that level of intangible value to your organization. But at the end of the day, you have to make business decisions in a business, and the business decision, the right one, and the one that's objectively true, is that paying running backs big money is a bad idea, especially ones that have already had ACL surgery, especially ones that have had a number of injuries. That ankle is already beaten up pretty badly. Ligament damage is permanent. You never get your full ligament range back after those type of situations. Bone heals to 100%. Ligament never recovers fully. So you're always more prone to those injuries in the future. I think him playing on the tag is probably the best he's going to get right now, unless he's traded, but I don't think that's happening. So, you know, is he going to be here beyond the 2023 season? If my best guess would say, maybe he gets tagged again. You know, maybe he accepts the Giants baseline extension offer that they offered at the beginning of the offseason, because they do have some guys on one-year deals that are coming off the books, and they have a lot of cash flow next year. But right now, I'd say maybe it's 50-50. You know, maybe it's a 50% chance he stays, maybe it's a 50% chance he goes. It's impossible to tell. It really depends on how he performs this season. Maybe they lock him into an extension at the halfway point, see if he stays healthy, see if their new offense and the new pieces that they've added alleviate some of that pressure on him, and he can, you know, maintain his health a little bit better. But for now, I have no idea. Right now, I'm just happy that they got him at a cheaper price point.
Yeah, and I want to read some of these quotes from John Mara, because I think that whenever he speaks on the New York Giants, it's very rare that we get to hear from the owner of the Giants. So when he speaks, it's probably good to listen. He gives some pretty good insight most of the time. And he talked about Saquon Barkley and kind of this contract standstill that they're at with him. He said, quote, "My dream is that he plays his whole career as a Giant like Eli did, like Michael Strahan did, like Tiki Barber did. I mentioned to him, look, what they're doing off the field now, I think he would do that as well. We'd love to have him. He provides leadership. He's a great player. We'd like to get something done with him at some point." And I think that kind of speaks to your point, Alex, about the intangible traits. You know, the locker room presence that he has, the being of a captain. He is the captain of the Giants offense. Letting a guy like Saquon Barkley walk as a captain doesn't necessarily send the best signal to your locker room. So ideally, the New York Giants would probably like to pay him, do right by him, and have him happy going into the regular season. But it's also worth noting that John Mara was asked about Ezekiel Elliott being released, Josh Jacobs not being able to get a big contract, Tony Pollard not being able to get a big contract, and he did have something to say about that. Quote, "You certainly are aware of that, but he adds a lot to our team, not just as a running back." Again, speaking to your point about what he does in the locker room. So he is somebody that we want back, but there is a limit as to what we can do. And we've heard about this before, right, Alex? We heard that Joe Shane said there is a walkaway number with Saquon Barkley. They didn't necessarily say that. They didn't have the same tune with Daniel Jones. With Daniel Jones, they said we want to find the way to get this done. We want to come up to his demands in a way where, let's compromise. Let's figure it out. That's what they were saying about Daniel Jones. But with Saquon Barkley, you have John Mara saying there's a limit to what they can do, and you have Joe Shane saying there's a walkaway number. So clearly, it feels like that number might have already been reached. I don't know. He didn't accept the $12.5 million. He wanted more. Now there's no offer on the table, according to Joe Shane. Now, another quote here that I think also provides some insight into Saquon Barkley, coming from John Mara, is I don't think he's thrilled about being tagged, but he's a professional. He understands the business. You just go through these negotiations with your better players. It's not the first time we've been through it. I'm still hopeful at some point we'll be able to get something done. So I think that, again, the market has a lot to do with this. The market influences the price tag for Saquon Barkley. Joe Shane says that it doesn't. Saquon knows how I think about him. That's a quote from Joe Shane, but let's be so real right now. Joe Shane, the market has absolutely influenced the value of Saquon Barkley. No running backs out there. I mean, John Mara even just said it. So Joe Shane doing the right thing, being cordial, not saying anything wrong in the press, but John Mara literally just said that the market has definitely affected Saquon Barkley's contract negotiations, and I think when you're taking a look at this, this is a massive standstill, and I really don't even know if there's going to be a resolution in sight by the time the regular season rolls around. But Alex, what are your thoughts on those John Mara quotes, just talking about how, he really wants to bring Saquon Barkley back, but again, kind of bringing home the point of Joe Shane saying that there's a walkaway number, John Mara saying there is a certain number that we can't go to. What are your thoughts on that, and do you think that might ultimately drive Saquon Barkley out of town and kind of cause a divorce with the Giants?
No, I mean, look, it's just objectively true. You know what I mean? Like, it's just true at the end of the day. Like, the market is changing. The market is not favoring running backs anymore. And if Saquon can't stomach that, I feel like, that's his problem, because obviously it's true. And right now I feel as though maybe he has to kind of look in the mirror and realize that if things aren't going his way, it's because everything around him is changing. He can only do so much to justify his worth, and he has a lot of worth, right? He is a valuable player, and I'm going to say it again. I love having Saquon on this team. I would love for the Giants to maintain him and retain him and continue featuring him as a primary piece on this offense. But there's a line you just don't cross financially, and Joe Shane has drawn it in the sand, and he stood by it, and I can respect that. You know what I mean? I respect the fact that Joe Shane and our management now is sticking by their guns, and I respect the fact that they understand the market, and they're not falling in love with the player because of how great they are on paper or their athleticism or whatever it might be. Saquon Barkley has legit talent, like superstar talent, but the injuries, the running back position, there's things out of his control. There's just things out of his control. There's elements and variables and things that are just out of his control that he cannot, get around. And ultimately, and unfortunately, they impact his price. So right now, do I think that Saquon Barkley should take those quotes and say, you know what, this is not what I want to hear, blah, blah, blah? Every GM is thinking the same thing. Every head coach is thinking the same thing. Every general manager knows this to be true. His agents know it to be true. This is nothing new. We knew this was coming. He knew this was coming. His agents messed up, in my opinion. They should have taken the deal when it was on the table, because they had to know the market was thin. They were hoping to God Miles Sanders got paid, and he didn't. And it's obvious that the running back market is thinning, and people are not going to pay. Next year, how many great running backs are really there? People are going to draft them and let them hit free agency just continuously over and over and over. Good Super Bowl winning teams do not sign running backs to big money contracts. It's just objectively true. It has been for the duration of history in the NFL, right? Isaiah Pacheco was a 6th round pick? Come on, guys. The 49ers, their scheme makes their entire thing. Christian McCaffrey was awesome for them, but Elijah Mitchell had 1,000 yards as a 6th round pick as a rookie, guys. You don't need it. The Falcons, right? I mean, they have that rookie last year who was Tyler Algier. He's their future. They have one of the best running games in football, and he was a rookie last year. You don't need guys like Saquon to be elite on an offensive side. It's a luxury. Having a great running back is a luxury. And paying them is a mistake. And that's objectively true. Again, $10.1 million on the franchise tag. That is super valuable. That is a great tag, a great price for Saquon Barkley, but I in no way am overpaying for a running back anymore. We have made this mistake in the past, doing this at positions, especially at ones that are very injury-prone with players that have had an injury past. But again, I'm going to say, I love Saquon. We'll love for him to stay at the reasonable price point that we have offered him. But the overage amount of money, the ridiculous contracts that these guys want, it's not worth it. And I'm happy that our management is standing pat and doing what's right financially for the organization.
I completely agree with you, and I will say that if any fans are listening to this, hearing all these different quotes about Saquon Barkley, the conversation about his contract, and thinking, why don't we just go ahead and trade him? John Mara did say that that's very unlikely to happen. He said, I don't want to trade him. We're not looking to trade him. We're not shopping him. I'd be very surprised if we made that decision. So Saquon Barkley, again, I just think that the ultimate outcome here, he's going to play on the franchise tag. John Mara said the running back market is what it is right now, but he's still hopeful that at some point they'll be able to come to an agreement with Saquon Barkley. And of course, we will just sit here patiently and wait to see if that ever does come to fruition. However, in my opinion, it seems very likely that Saquon Barkley is going to be playing on the franchise tag this upcoming season. Hopefully, he's not too rattled by that. I want to see him go out there, have another career year, help the Giants get deeper into the postseason with a much better group of players around Saquon Barkley, around Daniel Jones. Of course, I still think there's a big year in store for the New York Giants, and I hope that Saquon Barkley is a part of that big year that's in store. But of course, we're going to be continuing to monitor the situation, take a look at all the updates regarding Saquon Barkley, his contract, and updating you on it right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to subscribe if you are new to the channel. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode. Leave a like if you enjoyed this episode, and comment your thoughts on the topic down below in the comment section. We will catch you all in the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
TVSO.